Hi, everyone. I'm Ray Richmond, and I'm welcoming Francesca Sloane from the Amazon Prime Video spy thriller Mr. and Mrs. Smith to our TV showrunners Meet the Experts panel. It stars Donald Glover and Maya Erskine as secret agents posing as a married couple and reboots the 2005 film that starred Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. Francesca, obviously your goal here was to do a completely fresh take on the film that gave the world Brangelina. Was there any thought to giving it a different title entirely?
People started talking about that once we were making the show, because I think then it became very clear how different it really was. But I think part of the draw and part of the mountain to climb was the original IP and sort of those comparisons and allowing it to live in its own lane while still sort of bringing some of that traction over. So we kind of kept firm in keeping it Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
You clearly weren't worried about whether there would be pushback from fans about doing a remake, at least conceptually. And obviously, the big swing you took here reimagined something completely different. You seem to relish that challenge.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, like, even going back to the last question, Hitchcock had a Mr. and Mrs. Smith that was entirely different too. I think when you think of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, of course, the loudest thought initially is the Angelina Brad Pitt of it all. But I think you also sort of think about a quintessential marriage, a pairing of two people who are at odds and yet equally partnered in terms of their capabilities and a his and her story. So I think automatically, the zeitgeist brings you to that level of thinking. And we really wanted it to be about a marriage, about a Mr. and a Mrs. and what it means to become a Mr. and a Mrs.
Yeah, and it's like you did a mashup of a spy thriller and a relationship story, but took each of the concepts, separately and seriously. And at the core of it is actually, I sort of took it as two lonely people struggling to connect.
Absolutely. I think, we not to turn too inwards and become too personal and turn this into some kind of a therapy session. But I think when Donald and I got together to do this and we sort of brought in our troupe of creatives, here Morai and Maya and all of these and Christian and all of these wonderful people, we all really were able to tap into our own personal loneliness in telling this. We started working on it in 2020. I think a lot of people were really afraid. A lot of people were really sort of leaning on their own individual sense of partnership and companionship if they were lucky enough to have that. And so I think loneliness was top of mind.
People in television lonely? I didn't think you had enough time to be lonely.
You can be lonely with a crowd of people, but that's not time. This is no place or time for that conversation.
If that's actually true. We can get into that later. How did the actual series premise take shape with Donald and yourself and the writing? I mean, the writing process of developing the arc with Donald.
We kicked around a few ideas. We had an incredible group of writers. It was, we had this group of writers, mostly women outside of Donald and his brother Stephen, because we really wanted it to take this very masculine genre and kind of turn it on its head in terms of bringing a lot of really individual women's voices up to the plate. But we kicked around first a version that was a little bit more similar to the movie in the sense that it was a couple that was around the 7-year itch moment where cobwebs are sort of surrounding their chemistry. Things were becoming slightly dull. And it was a lot more about almost an existential crisis of Jane's character, not quite understanding why she did this and what this was all about. But in terms of the loneliness that we just discussed, it felt like it made a lot more sense to bring two lonely people together and start them off from scratch. And that sort of be, buried down below the surface as to why these two would sign up to be a Mr. and Mrs. Smith in the first place. Is because there's a part of them that wanted somebody to sort of course through life with. And so that's where we decided to go with the meeting story. And it also created an opportunity to add more mystique and intrigue to this mysterious company of the Mr. and Mrs. Smith company organization and this character that John and Jane deemed high. And that's why we decided to go in that way. So we started there in the writer's room. We talked about that. And then we thought about what are all the spy tropes you can possibly imagine. You know, we kind of did a board of all of these missions and set pieces and what kinds of things did you see in action movies? What kind of things did you see in espionage thrillers? And then we did something very similar in terms of all our own experiences. We realized there's all of these sort of universal things that happen when you become close to someone in terms of relationship tropes. And then we thought, how can you bring these two things together? And how can you make sure that it still feels individual and fresh?
You really did seem to steer clear of most of the tropes, which I really applaud you for. And that's probably, Francesca, on why you guys got a second season pickup. And congratulations on that. I hear you're returning as showrunner for the next go round as well. Anything you can tell me about what's in the works, or would you have to kill me?
I would have to kill you, but you know, I'm actually happy you're asking me this. Usually I get kind of nervous about these kinds of questions, but it's been really interesting to see what the press is doing with the season 2 announcement, because we have said very little intentionally, and it kind of feels almost like society are like naughty children that are trying to find Christmas gifts before Christmas, you know, like, you know, finding mom's hiding spot and opening the present before Christmas. And then Christmas is sort of ruined. And so, you know, we ended season 1 with a cliffhanger. And why would we just based on a headline when we haven't even gotten our chance to bring you the show yet, answer questions? If we answer questions right now, it ruins Christmas for everybody. So I will say, I'm not saying, you know, that John and Jane are dead. And I'm also not saying that John and Jane are not dead. But I think let's keep Christmas and let's not ruin it yet.
That's an excellent analogy, Francesca. And the thing is, people always, they want to know things just because they want to know things that somebody else doesn't know. But then they would bust you like crazy if you did give it away and you trash you on social media for spoiling everything.
Exactly.
So everybody wants it both ways.
Exactly. It's so true.
Yeah. Now, this was your first job as a showrunner. How is it different than what you may have expected going in? And did you go into it at all worried that you would be able to pull this off the way you wanted to?
I'm a big worrier. So I think yes is the short answer. I was aware just based on other jobs and producing other shows, what a big mountain show running is to climb. I'm using that phrase again. I think I could never have imagined how many hats you actually wear when you're really doing it. And also how much of it is really people managing. You know, I'm a new mom, and I was a new mom at the exact same time as I became a first-time showrunner, first-time mom, first-time showrunner. And a lot of those things genuinely do overlap, just in the sense that you need to make sure that everyone is taken care of on an emotional level. You at the same time need to make sure that budgets are being met. You need to make sure, you know, that everything that you sort of are imagining is being replicated in terms of the way that things look. All of the nitty gritty. I was really blown away by like the small things all the way to the largest things. Like, you know, Francesca, is this the toothbrush that you think John would use? You know, like, and it really does matter because he's like such an aesthetic snob, right? And all the way to Francesca, what are we going to do? This might end up taking us over budget. And how are we going to rewrite this so that that doesn't actually happen? And doing all of those things at the exact same time. It almost made my head explode, but I think at the end of the day, I was sort of excited by every single obstacle. It was a real exercise in sort of figuring out how to problem solve in a way that took care of everybody.
You just wanted to have a job that would make motherhood look easy by comparison.
Exactly. Yeah. Honestly, like going home and getting to just like stay up all night and feed my child and do all of those things. I was just like, relaxation.
You just wanted to have all of life's, you know, crisis points at the same time.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know what
glutton for punishment that you are.
Yes, yeah. I feel like we're unpacking a lot of things about my personality right now that I wasn't expecting.
Good. That's what we aim for here at Go Derby. we're going to wrap things there. All 8 episodes of Mr. and Mrs. Smith are available to stream over Prime Video. Francesca Sloane, best of luck to you this Emmy season, and thanks for joining us at Goldberg.
Thank you so much for having me.